Hello, thank you for joining me. This is video number 8, I believe. Gosh, where are we with this stuff? I think it's 8. No, we're on number 9. This is taking a lot of videos, but you know what? You're getting a lot of instruction in a short amount of time. For about a half hour's worth of videos, you really are going to get your hands kind of dirty with AutoCAD and be able to get in that sandbox and really begin to start creating things in a somewhat professional manner, a manner that a lot of architectural or engineering offices would expect you to do by, a couple weeks into job. So you're getting this actually relatively quick. If you need to review some of these videos in order to catch up and review some of these things that have been covered, that's fine too. That's what they're designed for. So when we left this video last time, we were in the middle of making a cinder block. Old school. A CMU, a concrete masonry unit. I like cinder block. It just rolls off the tongue a little bit better. So let's see what this looks like. We drew this rectangle out. It's 8 inches by 16 inches. We really don't know that, but let's see what it looks like on our A-size layout. And if we click on that, there it is. There it is. And yeah, so that's not quite what we're looking for. We want to kind of have that fill up the page a little bit. And this is the procedure for doing it. So we want to get the properties palette out. The properties palette out is going to be our palette, our PAL, for the rest of the time we're going to be doing AutoCAD. But just because it has information on what we need to learn and what we need to see while we're doing our modeling and our modifications. So the way you find it is you go to the View toolbar, scroll over here to the palettes section of the View toolbar, and just click on Properties. And it should plant itself on the right hand side of the screen. If it doesn't, if it's floating out there, let's go ahead and put it on the right hand side of the screen. That way we're all consistent in the class. We all have it in the same place. So what we want to do is we want to take that cinder block and we want to scale it. Now remember, as I mentioned before, sorry, I'm trying to get that centered. If you do zoom extents, Z, enter, E, enter on the keyboard, it takes that window and puts it right where it should be. So remember, as I was mentioning before, we always print in a 1-to-1 scale in Paperspace, so that the paper always prints out at 8.5 by 11. We don't scale that up. And when we draw in model space, everything's drawn at full size. We don't scale things up or down in model space. The interface between model space and Paperspace, which is our viewport window, that is what we scale to make sure that this object, which is about twice as big as a piece of paper is, 16 inches long, we're going to have to shrink that down to maybe 8 inches or less. So it'll fit on our A-size layout that we have created here. And the way we do that is we highlight our viewport, which is this blue box. You click on it, or do a pick box window, and go down here to the miscellaneous section of our properties palette. And where it says display locked, we want to say no. By clicking it out, we're going to say no. And now we're going to scale it. So standard scale right now is 1/4 inches equal to a foot. You can kind of play around with the scales a little bit. But what we want, and we are assuming it is going to be like a 1:2 scale, or 6 inches is equal to a foot. So let's see if we can find that. If you go over here, if you go to the standard scale and click inside of that and go to that pull down arrow, if you click on that, you'll see that we're going to have a number of different selections here. We can go to the 1:2 selection, but let's try to stick with the architectural format in regard to doing scales and try to find that 6 inches equal to 1 foot scale, which is all the way down here. These are not necessarily in order. You have a 1 to something scale on top. Then you have fractional inch units is equal to a foot on the right. So we're looking for the 6 inches is equal to 1 foot. Let's go ahead and select that. And oh, it's gone. What do we do? Let's do this. We're going to go ahead and lock that again because we already have that scale. And you notice if you don't lock it and go inside and click this, that the scale is going to change all over the place. What we could do in here is do a zoom extents, Z enter, E enter, and that block gets kind of in and kind of fills up the screen, but a little bit too much. Scroll it back a little bit and click outside of the viewport so it isn't highlighted like that. And then if you click on, not inside of it, but right on the viewport itself, it allows us to select it again. It's like an object. It's like a rectangular object in Paperspace. Click inside of it, jumps into model space. Click on it, it's just an object in Paperspace. It allows you to get to make modifications to that rectangle. It's a little tricky doing that, and it's going to throw some people off, but try to practice that, and we'll cover that a little bit better in class. So now we have our viewport selected. Go back to our scale, which is going to be some weird number. It's a standard scale custom. It's not really custom, but we're going to go back down there, choose the 6 inches is equal to a foot, and now we're going to lock that scale. So instead of no, we're going to go to yes. We don't want to lock it. And that's still a little bit big, but what we're going to do is we're going to take that viewport, we're going to stretch it a little bit. And you know what? That is still too big. So let's take that viewport and move it back into place. If you type in M for move and follow the directions on the screen, it allows us to move that back into place, and it's still too big for our paper. So let's go to our, just as practice again, let's go to our viewport. We'll select on that. Go to display locked. We want to say no. Go down here to custom scale, or standard scale. Apologize. Not custom scale, but standard scale. And we're going to choose the next size bigger, which is going to be 3 inches equal to a foot. And that's a little bit better. That does fit. We're going to lock our viewport as the last thing before we leave our properties palette. Then we're going to go over here and stretch our viewport a little bit so our rectangle is within the confines of the border that's been defined by our title block. And we're all set to go with that. Now you'll notice that, and just to demonstrate that again, if you double click inside the viewport, it jumps us right to model space. We can go in here and delete things and change things and add different things to it. If we like, want to add some more lines, we could do that. And if we click outside of that, it takes us back into paper space. So from paper space to model space to paper space, and so on and so forth. When in paper space, if you want to select that viewport, just select on it. You just need to make sure you're in paper space when you do that. Okay, more coming up.